At exactly 8:17 a.m., I watched Brenda hurl my nameplate into the trash, like it owed her money. She didn't notice I was standing right there, coffee in hand, heart jackhammering under my cardigan. "Nobody in this company takes you seriously, Karen." She barked loud enough for the interns to hear through the damn drywall. Laughter spiked the hallway air like cheap perfume. I stared at her, the glossy lips, the stiff curls lacquered into a helmet, eyes scanning me like I was a roach on her Starbucks cup. She wanted a reaction, rage, begging, humiliation. Instead, I sipped my coffee, nodded like I just got complimented on my garden, and walked away. That was day 1. Day 2, my schedule got gutted. My 40 hours whittled down to maybe 18 if I was lucky, a joke taped to the community fridge. Day 3, my direct deposit stub came in $430 lighter, garnished with a note. Revised compensation structure for low-value roles. No warning, no sit-down, not even a passive-aggressive team meeting with stale donuts, just a cold-blooded corporate execution carried out with all the ceremony of swatting a fly. And every time I passed her office, there it was again, the hyena laugh. The kind of laugh that had edges. The kind you didn't forget, not because it was loud, but because it sounded so sure she'd already won. I'll admit it, the first few nights, I sat on my couch in the dark, a glass of wine sweating in my hand, wondering if she was right. Maybe I was just another cog. Another name to delete off an org chart. Another middle-aged woman with a worn-out resume and tired eyes. But around night 4, somewhere between rage and rock bottom, I realized something. Brenda was sloppy. Arrogant enough to leave trails. Texts hinting at offloading dead weight before quarterly reviews. Emails marked confidential, but CC'd to half the department by accident. A memo instructing her team to create conditions for voluntary exits, basically, make life hell so people quit before they can sue. I printed everything, built a dossier so thick it needed its own zip code. While she was busy getting drunk on her own gossip, I was working late from the shadows, documenting, cross-referencing, smiling politely in meetings like I didn't know her career was already on hospice care. The best part? Brenda wasn't smart enough to wonder why I hadn't quit yet. She thought she'd broken me. She thought she was safe. So when that HR summons slid into my inbox, subject, immediate meeting request time, 3:00 p.m. location, conference room B, I knew it wasn't a death sentence. It was an execution. And this time, the body bag wasn't for me. I walked into conference room, B carrying a folder thicker than Brenda's ego. The room was already preheated with tension. 2 HR reps sitting side by side like matching gargoyles, faces tight, laptops open, recording every blink, every sigh. Across from them, one empty chair, one glass of water, one printed copy of my file, the file I built, sitting dead center like it was waiting for its executioner. Brenda strolled in 5 minutes late, Starbucks in hand, sunglasses still perched on her head like she thought she was a movie star slumming it at a parole hearing. She clocked me sitting there. She clocked the file, and for the first time in 6 months, she hesitated. "What's this about?" she smirked, tossing her purse onto the floor like the room itself wasn't even worth respecting. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. HR lady number 1 cleared her throat, real delicate, like she was about to announce a death in the family. "Brenda, we've received serious allegations regarding your management practices. Today's meeting is an opportunity for you to respond." Brenda laughed, loud, like she thought this was all some cute misunderstanding, some bureaucratic slap fight she could weasel out of with a few fake tears and an apology about workplace stress. She turned to me, still half laughing, and sneered. "Oh, this is what you're doing now? Crying to mommy and daddy because you can't handle real pressure?" HR lady number 2 didn't even blink. She flipped the folder open. First page, a timeline of Brenda's restructuring efforts, documenting the slow, deliberate drowning of employees who dared to have boundaries. Second page, screenshots of her calling the entire department, welfare cases with LinkedIn profiles. Third page, an email in writing ordering her assistant to find reasons to mark Karen's projects as incomplete. Fourth page, a memo she accidentally sent to me outlining how to encourage strategic attrition, before severance obligations kick in. Brenda's smile deflated like a dollar store air mattress under a drunk uncle. Her hands twitched. She grabbed her cup, missed the lid, spilled a splash down her blouse. HR lady number 1 kept reading, voice cold enough to frost glass. Please explain, in your own words, your rationale for these communications. Brenda opened her mouth. Shut it. Opened it again. The only sound was the mechanical hum of the overhead lights and the soft scratching of pen on a legal pad, documenting, recording. This is taken out of context, she finally croaked. HR lady number 2 tapped the file with one manicured finger. All of it. Silence. I sat there stone still, every muscle vibrating under my skin, but my face didn't move an inch because the best revenge isn't yelling. It's letting them drown in the paperwork they built for your funeral and watching them realize too late that they dug the grave for themselves instead. Brenda's lipstick smile cracked wide open. She stammered something about misinterpretations and team-building exercises like we were all just reading her grand plan wrong, like gaslighting a room full of people with documented evidence was some kind of Olympic sport, and she was going for gold. HR didn't flinch. Hell, didn't even blink. HR lady number 1 slid another sheet across the table. It was a printed report, anonymous complaints compiled over the last 8 months. Spoiler alert, they weren't anonymous anymore. Turns out, Brenda wasn't just gunning for me. She'd been running a full-on Hunger Games in our department, slashing hours, weaponizing performance reviews, setting impossible KPIs for the people she didn't like and padding numbers for the ones she did. She thought nobody was keeping score. One complaint stood out, one I hadn't even known about. Employee X was threatened with shift reductions if they reported overtime violations to Labor Board. Employee X had signed it. In bold letters. Employee X was the intern. The kid she treated like a coffee-fetching Roomba had flipped on her. Hard. Brenda's hands trembled now, sloshing her cold coffee, like she was on the deck of a sinking ship. She licked her lips and went for the oldest trick in the corporate apocalypse handbook, deny and blame. I never authorized any of that. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Someone's out to get me. I've been set up. She swung her eyes toward me, desperate, pleading now, but all I did was raise one eyebrow like, yes, sweetheart, keep digging. HR lady number 2 delivered the next blow like a sniper shot to the ribs. We've also reviewed financial records tied to employee expense reports, and there are discrepancies that warrant a separate investigation. Translation. She wasn't just cruel. She was sloppy and greedy. I watched Brenda's face collapse in real time, the mascara smudging, soul leaving the body kind of collapse. This is retaliation, she screeched, voice hitting a pitch only dogs and desperate middle managers could hear. HR lady number 1 flipped calmly to another tab on her laptop. Retaliation claims only apply when the employee has been formally disciplined or terminated without cause. In this case, she clicked something. You initiated the pay cut without any documented performance reviews, following internal remarks that indicated personal bias against Ms. Patterson. Pause. Full courtroom silence. She added, Ms. Patterson, by the way, has consistently exceeded performance benchmarks for her role. Brenda's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. A dying fish on an expensive rented conference room table. Meanwhile me? I just adjusted my seat, took another slow sip of my now lukewarm coffee, and waited, because I knew what came next. The part where the real damage began, where she realized that not only had she lost, she'd done it with her own signature on every page. Brenda must have realized it too, because all the fake confidence drained out of her face like someone yanked the power cord on her whole personality. She leaned forward, voice wobbling like a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Look, we can work this out, she hissed, glancing nervously at the HR reps. I mean, come on, Karen. We don't have to burn the house down over a few misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. Like gutting my paycheck was a clerical error. Like humiliating me in front of the team was an oopsie. Like months of career sabotage were just adorable little accidents. I didn't say a word, but HR lady number 2 smiled the kind of cold, clinical smile you usually only see right before a guillotine drops. We're past the point of informal resolutions, Brenda. She turned her laptop so Brenda could see the screen. It was an official company termination draft. Already filled out. Already signed by their boss. The one Brenda used to name drop like a magic shield every time she thought she could get away with murder. Brenda blinked at it, like maybe if she stared hard enough it would disappear. Meanwhile, HR lady number 1 dropped another stack of papers on the table. This packet includes details of your suspension pending final review, list of claims that have been forwarded to corporate legal, and information on potential clawbacks regarding misallocated departmental funds. She said it in one breath, like reading off a grocery list, but every word landed like a hammer. Suspension. Legal review. Clawbacks. Brenda finally snapped. You can't do this. I built this department, she shrieked, jabbing a manicured finger toward the window like the gray, dying cubicles beyond it were her personal Sistine Chapel. You built a case against yourself. HR lady number 2 shot back without even looking up. God, it was beautiful. Better than any revenge fantasy I could have cooked up on my couch with a glass of wine and a pack of anxiety medication. Brenda tried to rally, tried to pivot into some desperate, "You'll regret this" speech, but nobody was buying tickets to that show anymore. Instead, HR lady number 1 said the words I'd been waiting months to hear. You are required to vacate the premises immediately following this meeting. Security will escort you back to your office to collect personal belongings only. Your access has already been revoked. Already revoked. Before she even stepped into the room, her badge had turned into a coaster. Brenda's mouth moved like she was still trying to form threats, bargains, prayers. But nothing came out except one weak wait. No one waited. Security was already outside the door. 2 guys in navy polos, radios crackling, faces blank as a winter road. Brenda stumbled out of her chair so fast she nearly toppled over, scrambled for her purse, clutched it to her chest like maybe the contents could somehow buy back her soul. She didn't even look at me as they escorted her down the hall, head bowed, steps stumbling, the sound of her heels scraping the tile like the saddest drumbeat I'd ever heard. And me? I stayed seated, still calm, watching, waiting because the best part? The part Brenda didn't know yet. The fallout was just getting started. The door clicked shut behind her, and for a moment the whole room was pure, ringing silence. The kind that tastes electric on your tongue. I sat there, staring at the empty chair she left behind, a sad little memorial to her reign of terror, still smelling faintly like her coconut body spray and desperation. HR lady number 1 finally broke the silence. Miss Patterson, she said, folding her hands neatly on the table. We owe you an apology. I raised my eyebrows slightly, but said nothing. I'd learned by now. Let them fill the silence. They'll always give you more than you ask for. We failed to catch these behaviors earlier. Had you not come forward with documentation, this could have continued unchecked for much longer, she continued, her voice tight but genuine. HR lady number 2 chimed in, flipping to another file on her laptop. Effective immediately, your hours and pay are restored, with back pay for the months affected by Brenda's unauthorized reductions. A beat. Additionally, you're being offered the position of interim department manager, pending final board approval. Full salary increase included. Benefits adjusted accordingly. It hit me in waves. First the shock. Then the slow, creeping satisfaction. I wasn't just surviving this mess. I was being handed the keys to the kingdom she tried to exile me from. Still, I kept my face neutral. Years of eating crow for people like Brenda had taught me one thing. Never celebrate until the ink's dry and the witnesses have left the room. Thank you, I said simply, voice steady. I'll review the offer and respond within the requested timeframe. HR lady number 1 smiled faintly, a flash of respect crossing her face. Smart move, her eyes said. Play it cool, play it right. We wrapped the meeting, signatures, countersignatures, the bureaucratic dance of tying up loose ends. I gathered my folder, now just a souvenir of the slow, methodical arson I had lit under Brenda's entire career, and stepped out into the hallway. The office was weirdly quiet. Word must have traveled fast, like blood in water. I could feel the stares, People peeking over cubicle walls, whispering behind monitors. Not mocking, not laughing, watching. A couple of them, the ones who had eaten Brenda's petty cruelty same as I had, gave me tight nods as I passed. Respect, fear, maybe a little hope. I walked by Brenda's office. Security was still in there, packing her personal junk into one of those sad little cardboard boxes, the kind you see in TV shows right before the credits roll on someone's career. The framed girl boss quote, broken. The cheap succulent on her desk, wilted and half dead. I didn't gloat. I didn't sneer. I just paused for a second, long enough to see it, the ghost of her arrogance still clinging to the walls, and then kept walking. Because I knew something nobody else did yet. Brenda's implosion wasn't confined to this office. There were bigger storms rolling in that she couldn't outrun with fake smiles and HR jargon. And I had front row seats. By the time I made it back to my desk, my inbox was already a live wire. Emails stacked up faster than dirty plates at a church potluck. Some were official HR confirmations, legal CCs, the kind of cold, heavy language you could practically feel weighing down your screen. But the others? They were better. Private messages. From people who, just a week ago, wouldn't make eye contact if I was on fire. Thank you for standing up. You have no idea how bad it got after you went quiet. If you need a witness for anything, I'm in. Turns out Brenda had a lot more skeletons buried in shallow graves than even I realized, and with her gone, the survivors were digging them up. There were whispers, fast, frantic ones, that some of her golden children were already panicking. One scheduled emergency meetings with HR by noon. Another had gone on vacation indefinitely, deleting every trace of their Slack conversations on the way out. The empire Brenda built on intimidation and cheap wine spritzers was collapsing faster than a dollar store camping chair under a drunk stepdad. And still, the best part was waiting. Around 2:30 p.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Blocked caller ID. One line. You happy now, Karen? I didn't respond, because I already knew who it was. Brenda, somewhere in whatever dingy bar or parking lot she was holed up in, still trying to figure out how the game flipped so fast, still thinking she could guilt-trip her way back into relevance. But the real cherry on top? I hadn't even pulled the final lever yet. See, a few nights ago, during one of those sleepless, rage-soaked marathons where you either spiral or plot, I stumbled across something special, buried deep in the financials. Hidden in line items she thought nobody would ever bother to audit. Petty cash reimbursements, fake vendor payments, kickbacks from consultants that didn't even exist outside of Gmail addresses, straight-up embezzlement. At first, I'd just taken screenshots, insurance, in case she tried to torpedo me harder. But now? Now it was time to light that match. I sent one email. One. Subject line. Urgent. Potential financial misconduct related to former employee. Attached. Every document she never thought anyone would find. Every receipt she tried to bury. Every fake invoice she signed herself. And I didn't send it to HR. I sent it to corporate compliance. Because HR could slap her wrist. Compliance could bury her. By 3:15 p.m., the reply hit my inbox. Short, formal. Thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. Internal investigation has been opened. You may be contacted for follow-up. Translation. Brenda wasn't just fired. She was about to be investigated by the same people who cared less about hurt feelings and a lot more about federal subpoenas. I leaned back in my chair, stretched my arms till my joints cracked, and stared out the window. The sun was setting behind the parking lot, and somewhere out there Brenda was realizing, maybe for the first time in her life, that there wasn't a single person left willing to cover for her. Not HR, not her fake friends, not her little army of backstabbers. She was on her own, and the wolves were already circling. The fallout didn't just trickle in, it hit like a damn flood. By the next morning the office felt different, colder, sharper, like the air itself had teeth. People walked around with that cautious, wide-eyed look, the way you move when you're not sure if the building's still structurally sound after an explosion. I barely made it to my desk before the rumors started swirling. Whispers slithering between cubicles. Compliance is in the building. They're pulling hard drives. Somebody saw Brenda's name flagged on the corporate incident board. Every 20 minutes, another one of Brenda's old cronies got tapped on the shoulder by a guy in a suit, taken to a glass-walled conference room, door closed behind them with a soft, terrifying click. Nobody came back smiling. The ones who got called in looked like they were walking to their own executions. The ones who didn't get called in looked even worse, waiting, wondering, calculating how much blood might still be on their hands. By noon, 3 resignations had already hit the company Slack. No farewell parties. No thanks for everything posts. Just cold online notices followed by account deactivations, so fast it made heads spin. I wasn't surprised when corporate compliance finally called me in either. Their office wasn't like HR's. No fake ferns. No friendly smiles. Just a long oak table, a tape recorder, and 2 investigators who looked like they'd seen every trick in the book and were bored of them. They didn't play games. No small talk. No, how are you feeling today, softballs? They slid a statement across the table. We'd like you to formally attest that these documents were obtained during the normal course of your work and not fabricated or altered in any way. Easy. I signed my name with the same hand she tried to cripple. And then they hit me with the question I'd been waiting for. Are you aware of any other individuals who may have been involved or complicit in these activities? I looked them straight in the eye, paused long enough for the silence to stretch, so tight it squeaked. And then I said, I think it would be worthwhile to pull the email archives from her direct reports, especially the ones who signed off on expense approvals. Their pens moved like knives across their notepads. The signal was clear. This wasn't just about Brenda anymore. This was a purge. I walked out of that room lighter than I'd felt in years. Meanwhile, the office kept peeling itself apart like bad wallpaper. Management scrambling. Slack channels locked. Finance teams triple-checking reimbursement reports like their lives depended on it. And through it all, Brenda stayed silent. No rage emails, no last-ditch LinkedIn posts about resilience and navigating workplace adversity. Nothing. It was like she'd been erased, not fired, not punished, not humiliated, but obliterated. Exactly what she deserved. But the final blow? That hadn't even landed yet. It happened 3 days later. I was just finishing a coffee run when I saw the email notification pop up. Subject: External investigation update. Not from HR, not from compliance, from legal. I opened it right there in the parking lot, sunlight bouncing off the cracked asphalt like the world itself was holding its breath. Inside was one line that hit harder than anything I could have dreamed up on those dark nights when Brenda thought she owned me. We have referred the matter to local authorities for further action. Local authorities. Translation: Brenda wasn't just out of a job. She was about to be under criminal investigation. For fraud, for embezzlement, for everything she laughed about while she thought she was invincible. And the best part? Corporate didn't just throw her to the wolves quietly. No, they damn sure made sure everyone saw the blood on the snow. An internal memo went out to the whole company, thousands of employees across multiple states, outlining a zero-tolerance policy on ethical violations and citing Brenda by full name as the example. Her LinkedIn profile? Gone. Her little clique of cronies? Publicly scrambling to rebrand their careers like rats off a burning ship. And Brenda herself? Word trickled back from the bartender at the Hollow Tap, a cousin of a co-worker's friend, that she was holed up in some grimy extended stay motel by the interstate. Credit cards frozen, reputation nuked, phone blowing up with lawyers she couldn't afford and ex-friends who wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. Funny how fast people forget you when your power evaporates. Funny how loyalty dries up when there's no paycheck attached. And me? I got promoted. Salary bump. Team under my leadership now, real leadership. Not Brenda's bullying in a blazer routine. Some days, I still catch people glancing at me across the office that look like they're wondering how the quiet woman in the back row ended up at the head of the table. But I don't explain it because they didn't see the late nights printing receipts. They didn't hear the sick laughter behind my back. They didn't feel the slow, surgical rage that built this victory one cold, meticulous page at a time. Brenda thought she could destroy me. Instead, she sharpened me into a goddamn weapon. And now, every time someone whispers her name in fear, Every time a new compliance memo goes out tightening the screws even tighter, I just sip my coffee, black, strong, unforgiving, and smile. Because the real win wasn't just getting justice. The real win was making sure she would never laugh at anyone like me again. Not from a boardroom, not from a corner office, not from anywhere. The day HR summoned her with my file on the table, Brenda forgot how to laugh. And I haven't stopped smiling since.